there was a pause. On Saturday, it was reported that Chuck Schumer was meeting with Joe Biden. What was that? In Maryland, I guess.
Privately, yeah.
Was it in Maryland? Was it on the
No,
coast?
in Delaware.
In Delaware.
His home, yeah.
And then everything sort of went into neutral in terms of this question of getting Biden off of the ticket. Meanwhile, the DNC, it's unclear what they're going to do with an electronic voting. They're going ahead with electronic voting training for the delegates to nominate Biden before the convention, which was originally a way to avoid Ohio's shenanigans. They still claim it sort of is, even though Ohio changed the law, the argument being that they could change it back or something. But now people are starting to suspect that maybe Biden's trying to run out the clock and get the nomination. It'd be harder after the nomination.
It's so selfish. It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
And now there's, thankfully, I mean, this is why what's crazy. We're relying on these Democrats that we would never normally be in linking arms with here. But it's because their self-interest is tied into this as well. Adam Schiff telling Hampton's mega donors Biden can't win, reportedly today. Nancy Pelosi has been, according to reporting, working the phone since June 27th to get him to drop out. And then there is apparently a letter circulating among congressional Democrats opposing this very sprint, shameful by Jamie Harrison, by the way, sprint to get Biden the nomination before they even need to lock him in.
Supposedly, Pelosi's still working the argument. I think they're gearing up and they're going to make another push in the next couple of days. Personally, I think Harris being made the nominee after the RNC is great. Why give the RNC them an opportunity, to figure out any type of messaging about Harris? But here is Joe Biden. And here's the point. The question is not simply, can Joe Biden make it through an interview without it being a disaster? That should not be the bar. The bar should be, can Joe Biden effectively campaign?
Yep.
And if you're in a national interview and you cannot take advantage of the Republican Party and Donald Trump has not broken through 50% at any point. It's just that Joe Biden keeps sinking in every single swing state. The difference between the Democratic senatorial candidate and Joe Biden's numbers are
double digits. In many of these states, including states that shouldn't be swing states.
Read it off.
Virginia. Okay. So in two different polls, it was New York Times here. Let me find it in my
Joe
notes.
Biden won by 10 percentage points in Virginia.
Yes. Okay.
In two different polls.
New York Times, Siena, and then Virginia Commonwealth polls out today. Biden is in between 11 and 14% behind Tim Kaine.
In Virginia, he won by 10 points in 2020. In the New York Times poll, he is only up 3 or 4 percentage points. In the Virginia University poll, he's down 3 or 4 points. Now, the Virginia poll has got a 4.3, I think it was, margin of error. But the bottom line is, no matter how you slice it, he's lost anywhere from 6 to 10 points from where he was in 2020.
Yep.
Now,
the Democrats don't have a policy problem or a Democrat problem. They have a Biden problem. That's the thing. People don't think he can do it for another 4 years, and they're right. And that's the thing that I think really angers folks and makes them, honestly, moves from anger to disgust. Like, I'm not even dealing with politics right now, which is worst case scenario, because Democrats need as much turnout as they can to defeat this far right agenda by Donald Trump.
But here is, let's see if this convinces you. Here is Joe Biden. This is number 19. See if this convinces you that, in fact, despite all the polling, despite the debate, despite any of that, he's going to be able to roar back and change people's minds.
Open to doing one in the next few weeks.
I'm going to debate him when we agreed to debate, and I'm going to debate him in September.
But if the opportunity came
Hold
up
on,
to do in
pause it. I'm
between,
just curious. What does that mean to rebate him? Or bait him? Wait, is he going to bait him or rebate him? All right, let's just go back. Look, I'm just saying here. Is this enough to establish in your mind, watching this, that Joe Biden is ready to come back and he's coming guns a-blaring in that second debate, and he's going to be able to change this narrative? Go ahead.
No. There's also this other point. Lester Holt's giving him an opening to say, I want to debate him a third time. It's on him right now to change the narrative. He's down, like, really badly right now. Not just, this is going to be a close race. As Axelrod was saying, I know he has an axe to grind, no pun intended, but he's down, he's going to get swept. It's going to be a bloodbath at this point. He should go, any candidate that has the cognition to do this would be like, I want to debate him again. As soon as possible, I want a rematch. He couldn't even say in this interview if he'd watched the full debate. He can't remember.
6 months ago, people were talking about the Democrats definitively taking back the House.
Yep.
Do you remember this? 6 months ago. The Democrats cannot take back the House. Historically, it's virtually impossible if they lose the presidency. All those Senate candidates who are up from 4 to 14 points, they're all going to be in danger. The point isn't, you don't get an extra cookie if you win in a landslide electorally. But if Joe Biden drives people away from the polls, if they say on that day, oh, you know what, it's difficult, I'm not going to go, I'm not going to vote for Biden anyways, the Senate race is not going to pull them out.
You have to inspire.
You're looking at Donald Trump with 3 houses.
Yep.
The executive and both houses of the Congress. We didn't have that last time. We didn't have a Donald Trump who knew what he was doing, who knew what the reaches of his power were. We didn't have last time a Heritage Foundation that has a turnkey plan, day one, before day one, how to staff, what moves to make, what moves can be made without legislation, what judges to put in. We have that this time. All right. You're going to debate him again. Let's hear it.
in the next few weeks.
I'm going to debate him when we agreed to debate, and I'm going to debate him in September.
But if the opportunity came up to do one between now and then, is there a sense of wanting to get back on the horse?
I'm on the horse. Where have you been? I've done 22 major events, met thousands of people, overwhelming crowds, a lot happening. I'm on the horse. What I'm doing is going out and demonstrating to the American people that I have command of all my faculties, that I don't need notes, I don't need teleprompter. I can go out and answer any questions at all. And I stood there when NATO was in town. I stood there for an hour and answered questions.
If you were to continue to run and be officially nominated, what happens if you have another episode like we saw during the debate?
What happens if another?
Yeah, what happens if you have another performance on that on that level?
I don't plan on having another performance on that level.
What?
All right, Mr. President.
I'm sorry.
it's always good to talk.
Go back. I want to just find out what his
I don't
plans
plan on
are.
having another performance on that level, but just play it again.
Another performance on that on that level.
I don't plan on having another performance on that level.
All right, Mr. President, it's always good to talk to you. Good to see you. Thank you for making some time for us.
Sometimes come and talk to me about what we should be talking about.
All right.
Okay, the issues.
Always happy to talk.
Oh boy.
So
I mean, look, Lester Holt's interview was, garbage. These were garbage questions that Lester Holt asked.
to start in particular,
But
he was like blaming the Democrats for, in some way, inciting violent rhetoric against Donald Trump. That is, no one was saying that Biden was inciting violence against Trump until there was an attempt to assassinate him by somebody who was apparently a registered Republican. So why are we now retroactively saying that it's the Democrats that have incited violence against Donald Trump?
No,
it's
of
so
course.
silly, but
It's
of
so
course
ridiculous.
the media has to go through this garbage.
But here's the point.
Yeah.
And if you want to say it's not Joe Biden's fault, that it's just the completely 100% predictable media which we've had for decades, that are going to fixate on the fact that he got up and had one of the most historically horrible debate performances in a debate that was specifically set up at a time to do the 180 degree opposite thing. The strategy was, this is where people are going to be exposed to Trump, and this is where the whole election becomes a referendum on Donald Trump. And if you think the media is going to let go of that because he was able to say, I'm not going to...
We'll have some fun. I'll see you out the trail. Friends, join us on the trail. We'll have some fun. I'll see you out the trail.
Well,
that's the point, though.
Okay.
Because there's not going to be fun on the trail.
Yes.
This is going to happen over and over again. And if you have to get into an interview...
Right.
And the statistic in your head is, I've done 22 live events. And we should have gun control. And if you don't have the energy or the ability, when a reporter comes to you and you're the president of the United States and say, you know what, Lester, I know you want to ask me about whether I'm fit for this. Let me explain to you right now how I'm fit for this. It's not going to be by counting off how many live events I've done. It's going to be because these are my plans. This is what I'm going to do. I'm right now going to introduce legislation to the Congress, say, we need gun control. We need this. This is what I'm going to do for the American public. If you've got to spend your whole time defending the fact that you are capable of delivering a speech without a teleprompter, and you don't have the ability to change that conversation because the press isn't going to change overnight. You can't be complaining that I had a big rally planned and now it's raining. You're not going to change the media in 4 months. I mean, this is just obscene.
But he can't effectively complain is the other thing. In that beginning question, when Lester Holt was asking him, are you going to tone down the rhetoric over and over again? He couldn't get out of defense the entire time. He couldn't pivot to reframing the conversation to a forward-thinking agenda for the Democrats. I know, I'm adding to what you're saying. Like, he can't articulate anything outside of, I'm the guy. Listen, Jack, I'm the guy who, anyway. And it's all what he's done, why he's earned it, why he's the only one who can defeat Trump, even in that interview with Complex, which was even more disastrous, but fewer people will see. Me. Like, I know Mehdi Hassan had a piece in The Guardian saying it's almost like he's running like Trump now, but he's bitching about the media. He's bitching about, why don't you focus on this? Why can't people focus on, that's the problem. People can't focus on the Democratic agenda because you can't articulate it, because every time you step out in public, everybody's waiting for when you're going to mess up. Like, he is an anchor on this democracy right now with his selfish enablers who are keeping him in this race and just giving Trump, who should in any sane world, in any other election, be defeated handily. And additionally, the numbers about the partisanship and how people feel about Trump and the Republicans bears this out as well. He should be getting trounced right now. Instead, we're talking about getting trounced because this octogenarian man who every day he stays in this race, my contempt for him grows, is putting our democracy in peril for his own ego, and all the people around him are enabling it. It's astounding that we're in this position.
People should be calling their representatives and demanding that they tell, obviously, your Democratic representatives, that Biden goes.
It's not about him. Again, the thing, like, when he comes out, he said he proposed a 5% increase on a 5% cap on rent increases. That's a phenomenal policy. We said in January that he should be running on a housing initiative. That is great policy. What he said at the rally, where he incorporated canceling medical debt, I love that. Phenomenal. I would love to vote for that. The problem is it's not the policy's problem. It's a Joe problem. It's a you problem. And people, regular voters who aren't politically engaged in the way that we are, or who aren't registered Democrats, go, he can't do that job for another 4 years. He can barely do the job right now. That's what they think. That's what they think.
There's much more talk about the 25th Amendment for Trump, and he was better off than Biden is right here.
I mean, I don't even want to necessarily go down that road in that
Of course,
sense,
it's not politic, but
because-
frankly, if you're being objective.
because at the most, yeah, look, the fact that he hasn't had a cabinet meeting since October 2nd and
A whole genocide.
and the whole genocide's
It
happened.
was super weird because apparently Janet Yellen was asked the question, when was the last time you had a conversation with President Biden? And she couldn't or wouldn't answer.
Yeah, Mike Lawler, who in a financial services, or it was either or oversight hearing, one of his committees, asked her, like, when was the last time you spoke with him in person, sort of, and she just sort of was like, I speak with him regularly, and he always has a handle on the facts of what we're talking about.
They've been trying to hide him because they know this is a liability, but they have, through their own like selfish internal politics, imperiled the nation, and also likely because of this inertia, contributed to the deaths of tens of thousands of Palestinians. So, this needs to happen very soon. I'm encouraged by seeing some of these reports in CNN that they're waiting until the RNC is over, and then if he doesn't step aside, they're taking some of this stuff public. But we're really running short on time.
They should
right
take
now.
it public, and they should bury his ass throw his ass under the bus the second he gets out, because I think, I'm tired of this guy.
And the anxiety that people who want Trump defeated, which is a majority of this country, as Sam said earlier, he's not cracking 50%. A majority of this country does not want Trump to be in office. The anxiety that people feel with every day that this dude stays in the race is enormous. And it's taking a toll on the brand of the Democratic Party. It's taking a toll on the morale and young people and Gen Z or Gen X or whatever who want, I forget which one is the right one, but who want to be engaged in politics. This is going to make people feel cynical about politics for a long time. Like, I had Obama and Bernie and things like that inspired me. What does this say to, like, Mila? You know? I mean, it's horrible.
I want to address this. BBL Biden writes, if it's a Joe problem, then why do alternate Dem candidates poll very similar to how Joe does? They certainly don't poll like the senators who are running 10 plus points ahead of Biden. I don't get that, frankly. The answer is embedded in your question because you say, why do the alternate Dem candidates poll very similar to how Joe does? They don't poll like the senators who are running. The point is that they're not candidates. They are not waging a presidential campaign. The senators are waging a campaign. Everybody but Joe Biden is not waging a campaign because they're not the candidates. Joe Biden's not waging a campaign. That's the problem.
Yep.
Joe Biden is incapable of waging a campaign. That is the problem. If Kamala Harris replaces Joe Biden and does not wage a campaign in the same way that Joe Biden is not waging a campaign right now,
Yeah.
then yes, she is in danger. Like, there's no guarantee that any of these alternates are going to win. But it is clear that everybody who looks at polls, like, why do you think it was a freak out last week of every New York frontline Democrat office holder? Because they're looking at internal polls that say Joe Biden is going to get us destroyed. This is not made up. This is not an aesthetic. There's a lot of data behind this. Now, maybe one poll is off. Maybe two polls are off. But everybody whose job, except for Biden's 3-person coterie of advisors, whose job relies on Joe Biden campaigning, they're running around in a panic. So the point is, the reason why the other candidates are not polling better than Joe Biden is because they're not even candidates.
That perspective would be relevant if Biden had like maybe a lead and there were big lab. He is a dead cat. He shows no signs of being able to do anything on his own sort of impetus to change that fact. So like, even if Kamala loses the exact same margin Biden does, and I doubt that, but let's say she does, at least she was able to elaborate a campaign and we were able to see what loses instead of like, yeah, no, I'm the guy that did as much for Palestinians.
And
why are we not talking about abortion right now?
Buckets is right. Joe Biden's, and this is to your point, Joe Biden's campaign right now is for the nomination. That's the point. And the point is, who is he trying to convince? He's trying to convince everybody who's paying attention.
But that's supposed to be the benefit of incumbency, which
Exactly.
is so incredible. That just came to me. The benefit of incumbency is supposed to be, we don't expend our resources on a primary campaign. We don't get dragged down in a primary campaign by attacking each other and blah, 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 blah. We are presenting ourselves as president, and we're going to continue and build on what we started. He can't do that. So there's no benefit to incumbency. We're not running Joe Biden even from 4 years ago. We're running the guy right now who is having a really hard time maintaining, getting support, getting new support. So I don't want to hear I'll be voting for Joe Biden. Cool. It's not about what you're doing. It's about in getting enough people to turn out so that we stop the horror show that we saw on night one of the RNC from being our actual government again.
All right, just a couple IMs and we'll get out of here.
Show
We're going to have
is
to
so
start doing this show like 8 hours
In
long.
terms of my neurological capacity,
Yeah, just play that last line about what he's promising about his next debate performance. Just take it right from there. Don't give us Lester Holt's thing.
Yourself, basically the idea of engaging
keep going,
in another
keep going.
debate.
Towards the end.
we're going to have another debate.
Yeah, you're going to have one in September that's on the books. Would you?
Debate. And I'm going to debate him in September.
No, keep going.
But if the opportunity came up to do one between now and then, is there a sense of wanting to get back on the horse?
I'm on the horse. What I'm doing is going out and demonstrate there. When NATO was in town, I stood there for an hour and answered questions.
If you were to continue to run and be officially nominated, what happens if you have another episode like we saw during the debate?
What happens if another?
Yeah, what happens if you have another performance on that on that level?
I don't plan on having another performance on that level.
All right, Mr. President.
Okay.
All right.
You know what's so also...
All right. I just want to say, good for him.
Good
He
for
didn't
him.
he doesn't plan it.
Yeah,
on that level.
It's
Clint
what's
Eastwood.
so unsettling
Gran
about
Torino
him
19.
too is that he's whispering all the time, so they turn up the gain, so you can hear like all of his guttural noises.
All right.
The deep state put all that room tone in the
yeah.
Stephanopoulos interview.
I'm staying in the race.
Demian, would you recommend people in safe states, California, Washington, vote down ballot but not vote for Biden to send a message, an extension of the uncommitted campaign? What message?
There's no message.
If the dude loses, what message? Who are you
Join
sending
a
message
political
to?
organization and do messages with them, not with voting day,
It's
please.
not.
It's also like the entire Democratic Party gets the message. Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff are the ones leading the charge here. But I'll take those warriors with actual deep money, deep pockets, and they suck, but they at least care about maintaining power to a certain degree.
Hack all things. First, MR uses a filter on Tim Pool. Now they use a filter on Joe Biden. Unbelievable. Apple cideritis. Do you think the withdrawal from Afghanistan was a Bay of Pigs style event? I have even no idea what that means, but absolutely not.
Yeah, I would be fascinated to know what you mean by that.
What do you mean?
The only thing I can imagine is that somehow the military tried to undermine Biden in some way by.
But that doesn't appear to be the case.
I don't understand what that means to Bay
I
of
don't
Pigs.
either.
I mean, maybe there'll be backlash with regards to people we left out in the sort of swinging, expecting us to be there for a lot longer, and they would maybe assassinate a future president or something.
Dick Durbin, superfan. Hey guys, would love to share a story of speaking with Tim Kaine yesterday. 434 code if you take calls. We'll take calls tomorrow, but if not, you can email us too, and we'll look out for that. Son of Mamala. If it's going to be Biden versus Trump, maybe we need a solution to it that risks the imagination of a new kind of possibility. How do we not have that on the board? I got to get a bigger board. Matt is really slow on the trigger. Matt's
that's not on my board anymore.
Biden stance.
And maybe we need a solution to it that risks the imagination of a new kind of possibility.
Chris Burdick. There was a lot of speculation about whether J.D. Vance would lose his beard. Now we're wondering the same thing about Tim Scott.
Oh.
Oh, boy. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.